and I threw 3 touchdowns, and the other quarterbacks stunk it up basically, and I became the starter and was Coach Spurrier's quarterback for 3 years.
So who recruited you?
Galen Hall.
Oh,
Galen
okay.
Hall. Yep.
And then Spurrier started in 90.
90.
Right.
Yep.
And what year you came here in 88?
88. So I started for Spurrier as a redshirt sophomore. My first 2 years, as I said, I was buried on the depth chart, telling my parents I need to go to Ole Miss because I can play there right away. But they're like, nope, ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, and it's pretty. And did you know Spurrier at all when he came here?
No. And so I grew up a coach's son. So I'm that guy that watched every game on TV, even though back in those days, growing up in the 80s, there weren't a whole lot of games on TV. But there were no statues when I was in school here. There were no pictures of Steve Spurrier anywhere in the facility. So I didn't know who he was. And I saw the first, so we had our Christmas break before we went to the bowl game that year. I went home for Christmas, and the All-American Bowl in Birmingham with Duke and Texas Tech played. My dad and I watched it. That was Spurrier's last game at Duke. He'd already taken this job. And we were like, man, this is exactly what you did in high school. Throw it all around the ballpark. So that was the first time I saw who Steve Spurrier was.
Yeah, and it just so happens that your new coach was a Heisman Trophy winner as a quarterback. Right?
Yeah. And like I said, nowadays kids would know who Tebow and Werfel and Spurrier are because they got the statues, they got all kinds of stuff around the facility. But back in those days, there was nothing, so I didn't know who he was.
So tell me about the first time you met Coach. What it was like, what he was like back then.
Well, it was the first time I met him was in a team meeting, and it was like what I told you. He's like, everybody's going to get an equal opportunity to show what they can do in practice. In order for us to win championships here, we have to win SEC road games, and we have to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. That's what he said in the first meeting. And, he didn't have a whole lot of success as a player against Georgia. We all know what he did as a coach, but he hated the Georgia Bulldogs. And so that was, he was a lot of people, whether it's arrogance, cockiness, or whatever, it's just, that's who he is. That's his personality. It's not in a bad way, but it rubbed off on the players. And we played with that swagger.
Yeah, so. How was it once you got the starting job? How often would you talk to Coach? I call him Coach.
Yeah, so Coach, obviously I would see him every day in practice, obviously, but he's a unique individual, and people don't understand his coaching style. And so, for example, most people have playbooks that are back in those days, they would probably been a 3-ring binder about this thick, with hundreds of pages. Nowadays, everything's on an iPad. Well, Coach, his playbook were usually 2, maybe 3 sheets of white typing paper, and he would draw these little squares, hand draw squares, and then draw plays and have his handwriting of what the play was called. Staple it together and hand it to you and said, fold it up and put it in your back pocket. In case you get bored, you can study your ball plays. And, he did that every year he coached. And there's no other coach in America that does that.
Yeah. Now, we're here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and we want to encourage everybody to check it out. This is like the new clubhouse, right?
This place, Freddie and his staff have done a phenomenal job. It's basically a museum where you can sit down and eat. And it's in a great location, but the food's outstanding. But it's everything Coach has done since his high school days till every league and every team he ever coached, and it's just a phenomenal place.
Yeah, so those of you that are watching and listening and have not been to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, put it on your top of your bucket list because it's really an awesome place to go. It's fun. They did an amazing job. We're here in the podcast room. How many restaurants have a dedicated podcast room? Huh?
Not many, and that's one thing that they looked at, and I thought it was a tremendous idea because not only do your podcast, I've done mine a few times from here, but Pat Dooley, a bunch of other people from other schools come here.
Coaches here sometimes.
Yeah. So it's
Pat. Yeah.
it's a great idea.
And so part of being a Gator great is continuing to give back to the community, and I want to thank you for everything you've been doing over the years, because it's really kind of special to see what's happened. I mean, from my standpoint, right, Florida football really, got started at the highest level ever when Shane Matthews was our quarterback. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate it. It's all about being at the right place at the right time and being given the opportunity. And, I tell everybody, us Gators, we're all lucky that somebody decided to hire the greatest Gator of them all, Steve Spurrier. None of this would be here.
Yeah, that's true. So we're talking about the game Saturday night, right? And what you just said, when preparation meets opportunity, right, sometimes amazing things can happen. And I think that's what I saw Saturday night, with that interception to end the game.
Yeah, this new coach of ours, Billy Napier, is going to have a great career. He is sharp as a tack. He has a plan. He's one of the most organized human beings I've ever seen. He could tell us what the team is going to be doing 3 months from now on a Tuesday at 2:00. He's got it all planned out. It's a long season. It was a great win, but he's the right guy, and he's going to build this program the right way.
Yeah, and before Saturday night's win, I've been telling everybody that, Napier's the right guy, in my opinion, and let's not, no matter what happens, win or lose, don't forget that you got to give a guy a chance.
Oh, no question.
And the AP rankings just came out, and the Gators, miraculously are number 12 in one poll, 14 in another poll. However, okay, there's a total of 8 different SEC teams, in the top 25, and that tells you something about the fact that, week in and week out, our competition is going to be top level.
Oh, the SEC is brutal week in and week out, no question. It's the greatest league in all the country. All the best players are in the SEC for the most part. Tremendous fan bases. There's nothing like SEC football.
Yeah, I was talking with someone earlier today about the fact that, the atmosphere in the swamp. You were up in the booth. By the way, Shane is now our color commentator for the Gators. Mick Hubert retired, and
Sean Kelly.
Sean Kelly, great guy from New Orleans, and he was calling the Pelicans basketball games. He did football with ESPN. How many games? This was your first game with Sean, right?
Yes, I did 5 or 6 games with Mick last year on the road, and then that was the first one with Sean. And everybody asked me, how much preparation did y'all prepare? No, we just showed up and called the game, because it's really not, you can't really prepare because you don't know what's going to happen. You just call what you see.
Yeah, so what's the difference between the play-by-play guy, which would be Sean Kelly, and what the color commentator you do?
Well, the play-by-play guy's a professional guy who's been doing it a long time. The color analyst is usually a former player of whatever sport it is, and you're talking X's and O's and kind of what happened on the play for the person that's listening on the radio and can't see it. You kind of describe what happened.
Okay, so that's how because our radio network, the listeners, is immense, right? Mm-hmm. There's probably as many or more people listen to radio than are on TV, because everybody's got the game tuned on no matter what's going on.
Yeah, and a lot of Gator fans that are watching it on TV, even people sitting in the stands of the game, are listening to us just because they don't want to listen to the TV folks.
Yeah, well, not only that, I go to just about every game. I've got to be out of town on something really important to miss a game. And it's completely different than watching it on TV. You're in the game and you're seeing what's going on, and now they do a little bit of playback up on the screen, so you get a little bit of chance if you missed it, right? However, I've never been one of those guys that listened, to the radio or the TV while I'm watching the game. I probably would get more out of it. However, I have our gang around us, and everybody's screaming and yelling,
Right.
and sometimes you lose a little bit of that if you're, if you're paying attention to, Shane Matthews on the radio.
That is very true.
I don't want to hurt your listening audience because I'm really excited to have you as a color commentator for the new, well, you did some last year, but really this is, the Billy Napier era. And you and I have been around different, there was the Spurrier era, the Billy Donovan era, okay? For me, those are the two seminal figures in Gator sports. What do you think?
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, Spurrier, when it comes to football, I mean, Urban had his 2 national titles, but when people think of the greatest football coach and basketball coach, it's definitely Spurrier and Donovan.
So when you came in 1990, I know that you the SEC was primarily a running conference. Everybody would run the ball, and I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Okay, another Cleveland. And so I went to Ohio State because that's what you did when you were from Cleveland, Ohio, right? So, and I watched football in Cleveland to begin with. I watched Jim Brown run, which wasn't bad. Okay,
pretty good.
And a guy named Otto Graham was the quarterback. And then I go to Ohio State, and I've got Woody Hayes as a coach, and every year, it's amazing. But the story there was 3 yards in a cloud of dust, okay? Yep. And that was football and I guess, I don't remember it distinctly, but I guess during the 60s, 70s, and 80s, running football was pretty dominant, at least in the SEC.
It was. The 3 yards in a cloud of dust, they talked about it down here in the South as well. When I was growing up, Herschel Walker at Georgia, Bo Jackson at Auburn, they had all these great running backs. And I don't know if coaches just didn't trust their quarterbacks to throw it. And then, that's the great thing about Coach Spurrier. He came in here, and it was like a bunch of trick plays we were running. But, we're just throwing the ball around the ballpark, and I don't think the Gator fans knew what to expect.
Yeah, well, I was here going to the games, and so it's pretty amazing. So here, you and Spurrier and the whole team, the rest, because we got to give credit, because without a good front line and the whole team together, the quarterback can't do much. You guys really revolutionized college football.
I agree with that. That's why they call it the fun and gun, because Coach inherited a tremendous defense in 1990. Didn't really know much about the offense, but we threw it around. I mean, we scored on the first drive of the Spurrier era in 5 plays, in like a minute 42. We went no huddle, and fans didn't know what to expect. They were used to Emmett right, Emmett left, punt. So he changed. People talk about all these spread offenses and all this stuff these days. Well, we were spread back in 1990. It just wasn't called that. But his mind for the game was unbelievable.
Yeah, and so when y'all come to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, you can go up to the second floor and you can see the coach's plays handwritten on the wallpaper in the men's room and the women's room.
That's right. That's right. I love looking at those. Those are some of his favorite plays.
Yeah. So, hey, we're going to go to a quick break, and we're going to be back in 60 seconds on Meldon Law and Friends.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. Look what you have done to my truck.
Excuse me, it's your fault, it's not my fault.
Yes, it is your
No,
fault.
it's not. No,
I
it's
am
not.
calling Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law.
So I'm gonna call Jeffrey, my husband.
Meldon Law, this is Jeffrey speaking.
This crazy lady
wait,
here,
honey.
this crazy lady, he might...
New client?
Yes, but this one might be a little tricky.
Well, I was in a truck accident. Because of the accident, I've resulted in 3 back surgeries. We saw advertisements on TV, and guess who popped up more often than not? It was Jeffrey. The communication that he provided was so appreciative. He shows his compassion as a human. He assisted us in achieving one of our dreams, the acquisition of a home. And we're here today with smiles on our face with the assistance from Jeffrey.
Meldon Law and Friends. I'm Jeffrey Meldon. Listen, I want to tell everybody, please go to the Meldon Law Facebook page because we've got great ticket giveaways for all the Gator sports. Kentucky, 2 tickets and a $100 gift certificate to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. The volleyball team is great. Mary Wise has been here over 30 years, and she's an amazing coach, has brought in great talent. Check out the volleyball, and then we're going to be rolling into basketball. I'm so excited to see Todd Golden roll out the new Gator basketball team, just like Billy Napier has energized the Florida nation, the Gator nation, regarding football. I think we're on the verge of starting to see some incredible basketball again after Billy Donovan's incredible run. Shane, do you get to go to any of the basketball games?
I do. Not as many as I would like, because sometimes those things start way too late for me. I'd rather watch it on TV and go to bed. But no, I'm excited for Todd Golden. I think he's going to bring a new energy into the O'Connell Center.
Yeah, well, he certainly, in many ways, is doing things in the same kind of mold as Billy Napier, their own way, but they seem to be developing the culture of the team. And I want you to talk about that. You had a 14-year career in the NFL. You were a Gator great, and the SEC Player of the Year 2 times. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
91 and 92.
90 and 91.
90 and 91.
I got screwed in 92. I should have won it that year, too.
So everybody, and as Spurrier says, we were the SEC champion in 90 as well.
That's right.
Okay, the coach, some people say we won 6 out of 12 championships.
It's 7.
It's 7.
Yeah, I agree with him.
Mere technicalities kept us from being on the official board, but we did win 7. Anyhow, one of the things that we deal at Meldon Law is, we've got 30, 35 people on our team right now, and, we try to deal with team culture. What are some of the things that you learned over the years as far as, how to successfully develop a winning team culture?
Well, I think a lot of it starts with the guy in charge, and the teams here at Florida with Coach Spurrier. He was such a player's coach. He only had a few rules, but players knew you better follow those rules, and
give me 1 or 2 of his rules.
Well, it was treat women with respect, sit in the front row when you go to class, and then you could only say, well, I can't say it on here, but there was 3 cuss words you could say. I guess I could say them on here, right?
Yeah.
Shit, damn, and hell.
Okay, that was okay.
Yeah, that was okay. You said anything else, you were in trouble. But it was just simple rules like that. But I think from being on a team, being a quarterback, you're always the focal point, but you got to have a good relationship with everybody on the team. I tried to treat everyone the same. I think being a coach's son and seeing how my dad had to relate with people in high school, you got to deal with all walks of life, helped me. I can get along with anybody. But just, lead by example. I was never the strongest guy. I didn't do a whole lot of weightlifting, but I was there to support the guys that were weightlifting,
Because they were saving your butt.
That's right. That's right. So, it's just cool. Like in your business now, I mean, you have a team, and it's cool to be a part of a team because everybody's working together for one goal. And they all say football is the greatest team sport there is because if the left tackle doesn't do his job, it's hard for the quarterback to do his job. So it's football's changed a lot, especially at the collegiate level when they got rid of the athletic dorms because we all lived in Yon Hall, which is on the east side of the stadium. Not just football, basketball, baseball, every male sport lived in there. So we bonded a lot together. You had to spend a lot of time together. And then they did away with athletic dorms in '96, I believe, and kids started living all over. And I think that hurts your team chemistry at times. But it's fun to be part of a team again. I feel like I'm part of the Gators now, being part of the Color Radio guy.
Well, that's great. So getting back to my question, what is it that you've seen about team culture? The winners. What is it? What are some of the things you see in winning teams?
Everybody working for the same common goal. I think in today's society, there's a lot of I out there. A lot of people don't want to, they're not worried about what the team does, is what can I get? What am I going to get paid to go to the next level? And I think that's what Billy Napier's done a tremendous job all summer long. He's had these different stages of their all-season program. One of them was an identity stage. And I don't really know what they were doing. I just followed it on Twitter like everybody else. But he broke them into teams, and there was like 10 to 12 teams, but 2 captains. And those guys were in charge of those teams, whether it was going to class, you get points for that. Being on time, you get points for that. So everybody had to work together for the same common goal. And I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to team chemistry.
There's a saying that culture beats talent every day. And that, in the past 10 years or so, 10, 12 years, I wasn't that familiar with the team culture when Tebow was here, but I got the sense that it was a good team culture because, number one, you were winning, and number two, Tebow was a good, strong leader, and I think he was an inclusive kind of person. However, after that period, 2010, we've had some success. However, I never felt as though the team culture was quite as in sync as it had been in prior years.
No, I agree with that. And like I said, I think a lot of it, players feed off the guy in charge. And I think Billy Napier is the right guy right now. And, the thing that bothered me the most about our squad last year, because people talk about last year, not great culture or whatever, and I saw it in the press box, is sometimes our effort. And, when I speak to young teams, I say, this guy may be bigger, stronger, and faster than you, but there's 2 things you can control: your attitude and your effort. And if you do that, regardless if it's sports, schoolwork, whatever it is, you're going to be okay.
Well, I appreciate that. And, I think right now everybody's, riding high. Like you, myself, and a lot of other people have been trying to pay attention to the changes that are going on. And I think it's a good lesson for all of our listeners that it doesn't matter if it's a football team or a law firm or a business or, whatever, a charity, whatever it is. I think some of the same rules apply with regard to, leadership and creating a team culture.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and if there's any young people listening out there, I think you learn so much about what you talk about, leadership and being part of a team, by being part of a team. Get involved at a young age, whether it's the band, whether it's playing football, baseball, or basketball, or tennis, or whatever, or just being in a drama club. I think once people are around other people, they understand how they can communicate, and that's where the culture and chemistry and being part of a team come from. Because I think in today's society, too many kids want to play video games, and I'm going off on a tangent here, but they want to be individuals, and they don't know how to relate to other people because they don't get involved in things.
Yeah, I'm on the same page, by the way, Shane. I think it's like when you and I grew up, it was like, after school, we'll go play in the yard, in the schoolyard. That's what we did, It's like, oh, school's over. So went in the schoolyard and we played whatever the sport was, it was in season. Your dad was a football coach, so you certainly had that advantage. More importantly, though, whether you're playing sports or not, there was a lot of interaction between people, and we're actually dealing with that right now in the office because during COVID, a lot of people started working remote,
Right.
and we saw a disconnect. Because even if they're great people, great, team members know what they're doing, there was a difference between working, 2 feet away from somebody, whose office was right next to you, or somebody who, if you wanted to call them on the phone or Zoom with them or whatever, it was available. However, it changed the culture in different ways, and now we're in the process of finding the right solution to create excellent team culture.
Yeah, and I'll tell you from an athlete standpoint, when guys play in the NFL for it doesn't have to be a long time, but when you're on part of a team and then you're done and you go into the real world, you miss being in that locker room just because you're part of a team. It's hard to explain, and I think, when you retire from something you've done for a long time, it's a huge adjustment because whatever you're doing now is totally different than what you did your entire life. But yeah, being part of a team, the chemistry is crucial in having success.
Well, we're really pleased. We're going to have you back again. I think, what's this, the second time you've been on? I think we're going to.
I think so.
Yeah. But I love having you on. Like, we get started and we, for those of you that don't know, we didn't prepare this show with any particular script.
I think I was supposed to send a bio, and I dropped the ball on that.
Well, Shane is one of my friends who actually, you can go on Wikipedia and find out stuff about him. But I value my friendship with Shane Matthews. Thank you very much for joining us on Meldon Law and Friends, and we'd love to have you back. It's just a great honor to have you here. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you for doing everything you do to support my program, and especially the high school sports here in Gainesville, because I love high school sports, and you guys do a tremendous job.
Yeah, I know. I know you coach GHS, or my son.
And Buchholz. I coach both places. Yeah. So,
and that, so this year it looks like Buchholz is going to be the big dog in town.
They're loaded. They got some really good players. They're well coached and should have a big year.
Yeah. Well, we love our high school. Think about this. How many more players are there in high school football compared to college football?
Oh, way more.
Yeah.
Way more.
And that's one reason that we feel like, our Scholar Athlete of the Week program, honoring the scholar athletes in our community, is really one of the best things we can do to give back to the community, because the kids that work hard, get good grades, and also are gifted athletes, that's a pretty special mantle to carry, I think.
No doubt about it. And they're very thankful that y'all do that.
Well, we're excited to have Shane Matthews on the show. We're going to go to a 3-minute break, and we are going to be back with our next guest, David Young.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. Look what you have done to my truck.
Excuse me, it's your fault, it's not my fault.
Yes, it is your
No,
fault.
it's not. No,
I am
it's not.
calling Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law.
So I'm gonna call Jeffrey, my husband.
Meldon Law, this is Jeffrey speaking.
This crazy lady
wait,
here,
honey.
this crazy lady, he might...
New client?
Yes, but this one might be a little tricky. When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, If you can't beat them, join them. We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
We are here at the University of Florida, where Albert and Alberta are competing in the Gator penalty shootout. Albert is ready to stop the shot at all costs. What a disaster! Luckily, Meldon Law is the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. If you have suffered any injury, do not worry, because Meldon Law is going to help you with your recovery. Meldon Law doesn't back down until they reach their goal.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
And I was in an accident. Someone ran a red light and hit me, and I was hurt. You don't know where to turn. Luckily, I called Jeffrey. These big insurance companies, they don't want you to win. They truly don't. But Jeffrey and his firm and the people that work here, they just really fight for you. You call the law offices of Jeffrey Meldon, because you're gonna need help, and they will help you.
Welcome back to Meldon Law and Friends. I'm Jeffrey Meldon, founder and head bottle washer at Meldon Law. We're glad to have you on our podcast today, listening or watching. It's great. Couple more things I want to mention. We do have giveaways on the Meldon Law Facebook page. I'm going to read through these really quickly. So we're giving away a 4-pack of tickets and a 2-pack of tickets for all the volleyball games coming up. There's the Sunshine Invitational, FSU, September 13th. That's a big one. A 4-pack of tickets plus a $50 gift certificate to Harry's Bar and Grill, and also a 2-pack with a $25 gift certificate. Another Gator football game, USF, coming up September 17th. You can get 2 tickets to that and a $100 gift certificate to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Volleyball plays Alabama next, and then the Gators host Eastern Washington, which is looking to be like our walkover game. We used to have 2 walkover games at the beginning of every year, and they did away with those, at least for this year. And I'm going to talk about that with our guest, who is here to help us understand what's going on today, not only in football, but in other aspects of our life. David Young, how are you doing today, David?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing really good, Mr. Jeffrey. I'm glad you had me on, actually. I was actually looking forward to it once Charles told me about it. I was really excited.
Well, good. So David is a former Gator great football player, and more importantly, he was a scholar athlete, SEC. I noticed that in your bio.
Yes, I was. I played football in Florida from 2008 to 2012. Was one of our backup offensive linemen behind Mike Pouncey. It was fun.
Well, you were behind one of the greatest NFL players ever, right?
Exactly, one of the greatest to ever do it. Him and his brother. I was talking to one of the former players yesterday. I was telling him that I believe Marquise Pouncey is by far the best center to ever play football, and Mike's like right up there, like top 5.
Yeah,
they really changed the game for offensive line play all around.
So what is it that they did that was above and beyond what anybody else before them did?
So And growing up as a kid, I remember watching Jeff Saturday and Olin Cruz. They were like the best centers in the league.
Who?
Olin Cruz, he played for the Bears. Jeff Saturday was Peyton Manning center for a long time at the Colts.
Oh, okay.
And I remember watching Marquise his rookie year for the first time ever seeing a center snap the ball and go block a corner in the same play. Like he did that all the time in college. They would pull the center and pull him in. They would Coach Dazia would pull both Mike and Marquise on one play. It didn't make sense, but they were so freakish athletic, which changed the game. The rookie year, Pro Bowl offensive lineman, only reason they don't win the Super Bowl because he gets hurt in the playoffs. Like he's literally the best to ever do it. Now, I would argue that against anybody.
Well, it's pretty amazing because I didn't realize that that's what made them unique, that they were so athletic that they could reliably snap the ball and then create an additional blocking lineman
It was ridiculous.
to the outside, right?
It was ridiculous.
And
watching them pull from the center position to go block an outside linebacker is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which is why we ran so many sweeps when we had like Jeff Demps on the team. We ran a lot of sweeps because we had really freakish athletic linemen to get out there. That way, normally a sweep play, you have a tight end out there blocking an outside linebacker, and he can be beat sometimes. But if you put a 320-pound, 6'6" person in front of an outside linebacker, he's not touching that running back. So
Yeah,
it was
all right.
so much fun.
well, that was great. How? Where'd you go to high school?
So I'm from Edwardsville, Illinois. That's where I went to high school. It's a small town in Illinois outside of East St. Louis. Most people, they know East St. Louis, so I always say outside East St. Louis. But I played football. I started playing football in 8th grade in Edwardsville, and it was for me, it was an outlet. I was able to hit people without getting in trouble. So it was wonderful. I loved it.
You were a big dude back then.
At 14 years old, I was about 6 foot tall and 214 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Like, I've been big for a very long time. I was
So-
like a 10-pound baby. That makes sense.
So you play high school football. It was, what's it called?
Edwardsville.
Edwardsville. So you're right near. So East St. Louis is across the river from St. Louis.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like right across the river from Missouri. It takes me 35 minutes to get to the St. Louis airport from my house.
Got it. And so, what was the recruiting process like to come down to Florida?
My recruiting process was very unique, mainly because there was no one in my family who told me about college football, and I didn't really know how big it was coming here. So it's a funny story. I always tell people I really wanted to wear an orange helmet. It's actually very funny. And my crosstown rivals, we have orange helmets
got a
here.
lot of orange helmets.
Our crosstown rivals wore purple, and I refused to go to any school that wore purple. I actually got an offer from Kansas State and turned them down immediately. And I also refused to play football in the state of Missouri because we're like state rivals. So it was like they offered me a scholarship. I told them no. And it was just like my 2 orange helmet scholarships were University of Illinois and University of Florida. At the time, I had no idea how good Florida was until my uncle got involved in my recruitment. He said, "You do realize they won the championship last year?" I said, "I didn't know that." I was talking about in 2006. And I was like, I had no idea. So I didn't watch a lot of college football. Luckily, I came on a visit here. 2007, we're playing FSU. It was crazy. It was Tebow's Heisman year. It was absolutely electric. I had never seen anything like this before. And I was like, I love this place. Like, I really want to be here. And then I went to Illinois 2 weeks later, and I was like, I hate this place. I don't want to go here at all.
Well, there's only a few schools in college football that create the kind of electricity you see at the Swamp.
Oh, yeah. It's
What,
like,
so name me some of the other places, other college stadiums that create the electricity like we have in Gainesville.
and I hate to say like us because I think ours is the best, but I would say Clemson has the ability to do it like us. LSU, Ohio State. But the reason, and I think it's kind of tough because I think we're one of the only teams that have a under $100,000 capacity, but makes the noise with me. Because like Tennessee has more than us, Ohio State has a bigger stadium than us, but we're still just as loud. Like I remember 2018 when Tebow came back for the 10-year reunion, we beat LSU in the Swamp. I was on the sideline of the game. It was like the loudest game of my life.
Yeah.
Now, I was talking to Fred Johnson about this on the sideline this past game. He said Auburn game was like literally one of the loudest games in football history when we played Auburn in 2019. So it's like our stadium's so loud, which is why I don't like to put a lot of people with us because I think we're the loudest, especially for the capacity we have.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, the SEC schools generally have, the most enthusiastic fans, right? And, when you go outside the SEC, there's a school here or a school there, Ohio State, I don't know about Michigan, but,
Right.
they're big football powerhouses. However, I have to confess that, I went to a lot of Ohio State football games because that's where I was from Cleveland, and I went to Ohio State undergrad. Okay.
I know about that.
So I had Woody Hayes. He was a famous football coach. I don't know if you ever heard of Woody.
I've heard of Woody Hayes.
He's famous.
Yeah, pretty famous. Pretty nice guy. Pretty good guy.
So anyhow, but at Ohio State it was loud, but this was like deafening. This past Saturday, were you at the game?
Oh yeah, I was
Oh
on the
yeah,
sideline.
you were at our tailgate.
It was I saw you at the tailgate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyhow, man, they talk about the 13th man at Texas A&M. This
Yeah.
is bigger than being the 13th man, I think.
Yeah, we're pretty awesome. It's pretty crazy here. And I think the reason why is because of the way that the stadium is designed. It's like the higher you go up, the closer you are to the previous seat. So the top is like you feel like everything on top of you when you're on the field. Whereas like Ohio State, the sideline's so much further from the stadium, from the field. It's like so much extra space for the voices to get quieter when they're screaming. So they're loud, but they're nowhere near as loud as us.
Well,
Yeah.
anyhow, for those of you that haven't been to a Gator football game recently, this past Saturday, we beat Utah, who is ranked number 7 in the country. And it was a big game for the Gators because, number one, it was the first game of the Billy Napier era. And secondly, it was a game at home, and the Gators aren't supposed to lose at home.
At all. We're not supposed to at all.
No.
not
I
at
mean,
all.
we almost beat Alabama last year, okay?
That was a crazy game too.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So now you were a very good student. Were you a diligent student in high school as well?
In high school, school was kind of easy for me. I just my mom was very educated, so I just always knew I had to get good grades, so I couldn't play football. In college, actually, I had 1 year where I actually was an SEC academic SEC academic SEC not all American, all SEC student. It was my second year. I was all SEC. It was pretty crazy. I credit all that to my tutor that year. 'Cause she was the best tutor I've ever had in my life. She really was to stay on top of me.
What's it like trying to manage your time? As far as you've got football, you've got studies, you've got all of that stuff.
It was pretty crazy back then. Definitely not as crazy as it is now, because now they have to manage also NIL stuff. So but I think it was for me, managing time was the most important thing, and we were all on a very strict schedule. So that's the biggest thing, and the scheduling was always important. That's why I took my scheduling from college and I applied it to my life now. Because if you have a good schedule, you can get everything you want to get done as long as you allot the time for it.
So tell me a little bit about the team leadership. I was talking with Shane Matthews earlier in the show about leadership. You were there when Tebow was there, and we were winning national championships. Not only in 06, but in 08 and in 07 and 09, we could have won.
Well, we definitely could have won in 2009. It was
I was there in Atlanta when Saban kind of stepped on our dream.
His revenge tour.
His revenge tour, yeah. But what was the team leadership like, and what is it that we were talking about team culture? What was it like? You came here in 08. What was it like back then?
I remember meeting Phil Trotwine. In 2008, he was a senior offensive lineman, and I remember him not being the best athlete, but him having the most respect. He wasn't always the strongest guy, but when he played football, he was unstoppable. Like, he wasn't super freakish athletic, super strong. He was just dominant on the field, and he allowed his play. He didn't do a lot of talking at all in the meeting room, but he allowed his play to talk all for him. And back then, that's how it was with a lot of those leaders. Tim didn't do a lot of rah-rah talking other than like the promise or like the halftime and national championship game. But during the season, people think Tim Tebow was like this rah-rah guy. He just hit you in the mouth and played football. Like the Poundsters just played for every day. Watching them practice was like watching a CEO run a business, because they literally were just like, they treated every practice like it was a game. Where nowadays you see kids practicing like it's like they're just walking through or going through the motion, which is why they don't become great. But when you see players practice how they want to play in a game, it's a big difference.
You know, I'm thinking of some remarks I'm going to give to our team at the law office, and I pick up a lot from football because you know, we've got a big team at our office. You know, 35 people, and everybody needs some leadership. Yeah. So that's why I'm always interested in finding out who were the vocal leaders on the team or the coaches, who was really getting, you going.
When it came to like vocally, you always heard Coach Mick, our strength coach, like constantly. He was always 1,000 decibels. Like everywhere we was going, practice, he was yelling. He was telling us, get going, get going. It's the same with Dazio. Dazio was on us all the time about getting the job done, finishing through the drill. Coach Meyer had a saying, he would always say 4 to 6 seconds of a relentless effort. So it wasn't about running as fast as you can for as long as you can. It was about taking 4 to 6. He created a mentality of 4 to 6 seconds of the hardest you can go. That's how long a play is. As an offensive lineman, I don't have to block for 10 minutes. I got to block this guy as hard as I can for 4 to 6 seconds. And it just created this different culture for us when it came time to grind. It created a different culture when it came time to put the cleats to the mud and put the hands on the other guy. It was just, I want to bury this guy every single play for 4 to 6 seconds. So the vocal leaders were the coaches, and the players, it wasn't a lot of talking. It was a lot of playing. Even like Brandon Spikes, he would have fun in practice, but he was always serious about, let's get this done. I guess that team was when I came here, it was like a team that was so well put together that there wasn't a lot of need for like, hey guys, let's go. Like I can't recall hearing anybody be like, hey guys, let's have a good practice. Nah, it was like, we're going to work. So watching that as a freshman, it was like eye-opening. I had no idea in the moment how good that team was until it got to bowl game when we were prepping for Oklahoma. Because the way that we prepped for Oklahoma, at that time, Oklahoma had the fastest offense in the college football. They would get a playoff every 60 seconds. They were like running a play really, really fast. So to prep for it, what the coaches did, they had scout team, defense is here. They had had one scout team offense already ready, set while the other play was getting ready to go. So the defense would go right from one play to the other hash mark, and the scout team had to snap the ball like as fast as they possibly could. And defense, that's why when it got to the game time, the defense was able to stop Oklahoma. We beat the mess out of Oklahoma.
I know. I was down in Miami for that game.
Yeah, you were everywhere.
Well, I'm very proud to say that the Gators have had 5 national championship football games. I count Nebraska 95.
I know you do, yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of guys who count that one.
and I've been to every one of those games, and the Gators have been to, 94, basketball, 94, 2000, 2006, 2007. That's 4, and then 2014. So 5 national.
Fours, yeah.
So I was at 5 Final Fours and I guess 4 national championship games.
Pretty awesome.
Because we had 95, 96, 06, and 08.
Yeah, 95. Everyone who talks about that team said that was the best team we've ever had. Like it was just crazy.
Well, Coach Spurrier came back from that game and said, they ran faster than we did, so we got to change it. And he figured out a way in one season to make his team faster.
He's amazing.
So anyhow, I wanted to switch topics a little bit and talk about, I know that you're very involved in gifting as a profession. Can you tell us a little bit about what the gifting profession is all about?
So what gifting is all about properly appreciating your customers. Like me, I work for a company called Cutco Closing Gifts. And what we do is we specialize with realtors, loan officers, and business owners appropriately gifting to their clients. Most people, when they think about gifting, they think about it as about just, they gift to their clients that they would gift to their friends. So when you think about gifting, most people give like wine, they give gift cards, things that are like great. People love those things, but they're here today and going tomorrow. When it comes to gifting, the biggest goal is to create a raving fan. Like if you can't create a raving fan, you're not gifting properly. And the best way to do that is to give them something that's useful and has great longevity. So that's why I love my company, because we created, our company's been in business since 1949. Cutco has. It's American-made kitchen cutlery. We're like the Rolls-Royce or Bentley of the kitchen knives. And literally what we did was about 15 years ago, we created a gifting division that helps realtors, business owners, and loan officers appreciate their clients better by gracefully branding themselves on the product. And by doing that, it does several things for them. It keeps them top of mind. It creates client retention and is 100% tax deductible.
Yeah.
So it's just we put systems in place.
Well, I'll tell you that I really enjoy gifting. I've gotten a few really nice Cutco knife sets, and one of the things I learned is you don't have to necessarily put your the name of the business on it. You can put the name of the person you're gifting it to.
Also, yes.
And
when it comes to like gifting, it's great to give it. If you want it to last forever, put the name on it. It's amazing. They'll never forget that.
And so my wife and I always look at our knife sets that have been gifted. I have 2 knife sets that have been gifted to us.
Nice.
And we use them every day.
That's amazing.
Okay?
That's amazing.
And our name is on them, but I know who gifted them to us.
Exactly.
Okay?
You'll never forget that gift. That's the thing.
So,
that's why I love it.
So anyhow, and we're actually fans of gifting at Meldon Law, and we're constantly implementing programs.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Because
you guys are.
it works, and I think I want to commend you for taking your knowledge and background and actually creating something that, number one, it makes people happy. Number two, it increases their business, and everybody's happy, and it's not done very much.
That's very true. That's very true. That's like that's my favorite question to ask a prospective client is, like, a lot of people when they talk about gifting, they're like, oh yeah, every client's different. Yes, every client's different. But every gift doesn't have to be different. I tell my clients all the time. So I asked him, I actually got the other day. I said, you love your wife? He said, yeah, of course. I said, how long have you been married? He said, 13 years. I said, what did your wife get you for Father's Day 4 years ago? He said, I can't remember. And I said that because that's the biggest thing. People think about gifts as their friends. I'm like, you can't remember what the person you love the most gave you. What makes you think your client will remember you gave them wine 6 years from now?
Right. I like that.
That's my favorite question, because it's like that's like the closing question without even closing them.
Well, listen, we got to close the show today, but I'd love to have you on again, David. We kind of just scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah.
How can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about giftology?
I'm the easiest person to get a hold of. I'm on Instagram under Knife Guy David, super easy. My Gmail is also knifeguydavid@gmail.com. My phone number, 352-792-4200. And also, as a Cutco rep, I have my own website, which is mycutcorep.com/David E. Young. Super easy.
And I want to tell all of our listeners that this gifting is amazing. If you're in business and you want to make a splash, contact David. It's amazing. I've been learning about it the last